The stormy night brought a stranger to the vampire manor. I know your secret, and I'll keep it for a favor. The rain hammered the ancient stones of Ravenholt Manor like a relentless drumbeat. Thunder rumbled through the dense forest that cloaked the estate, and lightning split the sky, briefly illuminating the jagged silhouette of the building. It was a night when even the boldest souls sought shelter, yet a lone figure approached through the tempest. Lord Dorian Vex stood by the towering window of his study, his crimson eyes reflecting the storm's fury. A vampire of over 2 centuries, he had ruled this isolated manor with an iron will. His pale skin and dark hair gave him an air of timeless elegance. But tonight, an unease gnawed at him. The wind carried faint whispers, as if the night itself knew something he did not. A sharp knock broke the silence. Dorian's brow furrowed. No one dared visit Ravenholt, especially not in such weather. His human servants, bound by blood oaths, had retreated to their quarters hours ago. With a fluid motion, he crossed the room and opened the heavy oak door. A woman stood there, drenched and defiant. Her cloak clung to her frame, water pooling at her feet. Her hair, a wild tangle of chestnut, framed a face marked by determination. Her green eyes locked onto his, unflinching. "Lord Vex," she said, her voice cutting through the storm's roar. "I seek refuge from this tempest. Will you grant it?" Dorian assessed her. Her attire hinted at a past life of means, now tattered by the elements. There was a scent about her, resolute, tinged with hidden intent. Her pulse raced, but not from fear. Something else drove her. "This is no haven for wanderers," he replied, his tone smooth as velvet. "Leave while you still can." A faint smile curved her lips. "I know what you are, my lord, and I know your secret. Let me in, and I'll guard it, for a price." His eyes narrowed to slits. Secrets were his currency, buried deep with the bones of his past. Curiosity, however, outweighed his suspicion. He stepped aside, and she entered, the cold night air trailing her. The door slammed shut, sealing out the storm. Dorian led her to the sitting room, where a fire cast a warm glow over the high-ceilinged space. Shelves of ancient tomes lined the walls, and candles flickered, stretching shadows across the floor. She shed her cloak, revealing a sodden dress that outlined her form. She was young, perhaps 30, her features a blend of grace and grit. "Sit," he commanded, gesturing to a chair by the hearth. "Warm yourself. Then explain who you are and what you claim to know." She settled into the seat, her gaze never wavering. "I am Lysara Creed. I've journeyed from the eastern city of Thornvale to find you." Dorian poured 2 glasses of wine from a crystal decanter, offering her one, despite knowing she might distrust it. He took the opposite chair, his posture relaxed yet poised for action. "Your secret," he prompted. "Speak it if you dare." Lysara sipped the wine, her eyes steady. "A century ago, you killed Lady Isolde Marwood. She was your companion, the one you turned against her will. She pleaded to remain human, but you forced the vampire's curse upon her. When the hunger consumed her, she walked into daylight to end it. You buried her beneath the willow tree in your garden, and the world believes she vanished. No one knows the truth, because you silenced it." Dorian's grip tightened on his glass. The memory surged. Isolde's cries, her final desperate steps into the sun. It was his darkest sin, a love turned to obsession. How had this woman unearthed it? "Where did you learn this?" he asked, his voice a low growl. Lysara leaned closer. "I have my sources. Old letters, hidden journals. Isolde was my grandmother's sister. Her family never ceased their search. I found her writings in our attic, notes she sent before the end pointing to you. A lie, perhaps, but her heartbeat was even. She believed her tale." Dorian set his glass down. "And what favor do you demand for your silence? Wealth? Power?" She shook her head. "Nothing so crude. I need your aid. In Thornvale, a man named Cedric Drace destroyed my family. He stole our lands with forged documents, drove my father to his grave. I seek vengeance. He's well protected, cunning. I need someone like you, immortal, unstoppable, to help me reach him." Dorian chuckled. A hollow sound. "You seek a monster for justice?" "I am no savior, Miss Creed. I am the shadow in the tales. Shadows have their uses," she countered. "Aid me, and your secret dies with me. Refuse, and I'll spread the word. Hunters will come. Your solitude will end." Thunder shook the manor, rattling the windows. Dorian weighed her threat. He could end her now, drain her life and bury her beside Isolde. But something held him back. Her gaze, fierce yet familiar, stirred echoes of Isolde. Or perhaps it was a flicker of hope for atonement. "Agreed," he said finally. "We have a bargain. But know this, dealings with vampires often doom mortals." Lysara's smile returned. "Then let's start." The storm raged on as Dorian showed her to a guest chamber upstairs, a spacious room with a 4-poster bed and thick curtains. "Rest here," he said. "We'll plan further at dawn." She nodded, but as he turned to leave, she asked, "How can I trust you won't kill me while I sleep?" He paused at the threshold. "You can't. But if I intended your death, it would be done." He left her there. Back in his study, Dorian paced, his mind racing. Who was Lysara truly? Her story rang true, yet gaps lingered. His senses detected no weapons, but her mind was a sharpened blade. As midnight approached, he slipped into the manor's shadows. He reached her door, listening. Her breathing was steady. She slept. Carefully he entered. Her bag rested on the floor. He rifled through it, clothes, a few coins, a small journal. Flipping the pages, he found travel notes, vampire lore, and a faded letter from Isolde, detailing her terror of him. It was real, but a recent entry caught his eye. "Cedric is the key. Use the vampire's shame." Dorian's eyes darkened. She was manipulating him, but to what end? He replaced the journal and withdrew. Downstairs, the fire had dwindled to embers. Dorian sat, brooding. Cedric Drace? He knew the name. A ruthless lord, whispered to traffic in dark goods, perhaps even with vampires. Lysara's revenge might be a facade for a larger scheme. Dawn broke, gray and damp. The storm had softened to a drizzle. Lysara descended to the dining hall where Dorian waited. A modest spread of bread, fruit, and cheese awaited. She ate with vigor. "Tell me of Drace," Dorian said. "Why does he merit death?" Lysara wiped her mouth. "He was my father's business partner. They shared land holdings. Drace falsified deeds, claimed it all. My father battled in court, but Drace's allies prevailed. My father died broken, my mother soon after. I was left destitute." Dorian nodded. "And your plan?" "I need entry to his estate. He hosts a gala next week. You can secure my invitation as a guest. Then I'll plant evidence of his crimes. Or, if necessary, you can eliminate him." "Kill him, you mean?" Dorian said bluntly. She held his gaze. "If it comes to that." Dorian leaned back. "Galas are perilous for my kind. Crowds, light, it's a risk. You can blend in." She pressed. "You've a charm when you choose." He smirked. "Flattery, is it?" "Tread carefully, Miss Creed." They spent the day strategizing. Dorian shared rumors of Drace, smuggling, possible vampire ties. Lysara took notes, her focus intense. As dusk fell, the storm returned, fiercer than before. That night by the fire, Lysara asked about Isolde. What truly happened? Her letter spoke of love at first quote. Dorian stared into the flames. "She did love me. We met in Thornvale. She was vibrant, kind. I hid my nature for months. When I revealed it, she accepted me. But illness struck her, incurable. I couldn't bear to lose her, so I turned her. She despised it. The thirst broke her. One dawn, she walked into the sun. I couldn't save her." Lysara's expression softened. "You carry that guilt." "Always," he admitted, the words heavy. "Redemption," she murmured. "Helping me could be it." "Or a deeper fall," he replied. Their talk grew personal. Lysara recounted a joyful childhood shattered by Drace's betrayal. Dorian shared glimpses of his past, wars witnessed, loves lost. For a moment, the game of manipulation paused. replaced by a fragile trust. The next day, they refined their plan. The gala required disguises. Dorian as a noble guest, Lysara as his companion. He taught her vampire etiquette, how to move among his kind without drawing suspicion. She proved quick, absorbing his lessons. As night fell, Dorian tested her. If Drace suspects us, what then? We adapt, she said. Improvise. You're the strength, I'm the mind? He nodded, impressed, but doubt lingered. Was she using him, or was this a genuine alliance? That night, as thunder rolled, Dorian visited her room again. The journal lay open, a new entry. Dorian's guilt is deep. He'll follow. Cedric's downfall is near. A map was tucked inside, marking Drace's estate and a hidden passage. Dorian's resolve hardened. Lysara's plan extended beyond revenge. She aimed to topple Drace's empire. He returned to his study, plotting his own moves. If she betrayed him, he'd be ready. The week passed in preparation. Dorian crafted a backstory. They were distant cousins visiting from the north. Lysara practiced her role, her poise growing. The night of the gala arrived, the storm a distant memory under a clear, cold sky. At Drace's estate, lights blazed. Music floated through the air. Dorian, in a tailored black suit, offered Lysara his arm. She wore a deep green gown, her hair pinned up, exuding elegance. Inside, the hall buzzed with nobles and shadows. Cedric Drace, a broad man with a cruel smile, greeted them. Lord Vex, a pleasure. And your companion, Lady Serene of Northridge, Dorian said smoothly. My cousin. Drace's eyes lingered on Lysara, then nodded. They mingled, gathering intel. Lysara slipped away, heading for Drace's study with the map's guidance. Dorian watched, tense. A servant approached him. My lord, the master requests your presence. Led to a private room, Dorian faced Drace. You're no noble, Drace sneered. I smell the night on you. Dorian's fangs gleamed. And I smell blood on your hands. Before Drace could react, a shout echoed. Lysara's voice. Dorian rushed back, finding her cornered by guards, the map in her hand. Traitor! Drace roared, drawing a blade. Dorian moved, a blur of speed, disarming Drace. Lysara threw the map into the fire. It's over, she said. Drace lunged, but Dorian pinned him. Your crimes end here. The room erupted in chaos, guards, guests fleeing. Dorian drained Drace, leaving a lifeless husk. Lysara stared, shaken but resolute. Outside, under the stars, she turned to him. You kept your word. And you yours, he replied. But what now? She hesitated. I don't know. My family's name is cleared, but you're not done, he finished. There's more you seek. She nodded. Perhaps. Will you help? Dorian looked at the manor, then at her. We'll see. The night air was crisp as Dorian and Lysara stood outside Drace's estate, the chaos within fading into distant shouts and the clatter of fleeing footsteps. The stars glittered above, a stark contrast to the violence they had just unleashed. Dorian's crimson eyes scanned the horizon, his mind racing with the implications of their actions. Lysara's chest rose and fell rapidly, her green eyes reflecting a mix of triumph and uncertainty. We need to leave, Dorian said, his voice low and urgent. The guards will regroup, and questions will follow. Drace's allies won't let this go unanswered. Lysara nodded, clutching the edge of her torn gown. Where do we go? Back to Ravenholt? For now, he replied. It's the only place we can plan without prying eyes. But we must move quickly. They slipped into the shadows of the estate's gardens, avoiding the main path where lanterns bobbed as guards searched. Dorian's vampire senses guided them through the maze of hedges and trees, his hand occasionally brushing Lysara's arm to steer her. She followed silently, her earlier bravado tempered by the weight of what they'd done. The journey back to Ravenholt took hours, the drizzle resuming as if the sky mourned the night's events. By the time they reached the manor, dawn was creeping over the horizon, casting a pale light on the stone facade. Dorian ushered Lysara inside, locking the heavy door behind them. In the sitting room, the fire had long died. leaving a chill in the air. Dorian stoked it back to life while Lysera sank into a chair, her hands trembling slightly. He watched her, noting the exhaustion etched into her face. For all her cunning, she was still human, fragile, breakable. "You held your own back there," he said, breaking the silence. Most would have faltered. Lysera managed a weak smile. "I had to. For my family, for myself," she paused, then added, "and for you, in a way. You didn't have to spare me in that room." Dorian turned from the fire, his expression unreadable. "I made a deal. Honor, even among monsters, has its place. Besides, your plan worked. Drace is gone, his empire crumbling." "But at what cost?" she murmured, staring into the flames. "I feel hollow." He sat across from her, the crackling fire the only sound between them. Vengeance often leaves that taste. It fills a void, then carves a new one. "What did you mean earlier? There's more you seek?" Lysera hesitated, her fingers twisting the fabric of her dress. "Drace wasn't the only one. There's a network, other lords, merchants, even some who deal with your kind. They've been exploiting people like my family for decades. I found hints in his study, names, dates. I burned the map, but I memorized them." Dorian's eyes narrowed. "You're hunting a web, not a single spider." "That's a dangerous game, even for someone with my strength." "I know," she admitted, "but I can't stop now." "Will you help me? You know this world better than I ever could." He leaned back, considering. The idea of facing more of Drace's ilk stirred a mix of dread and intrigue. His long life had been one of solitude, punctuated by moments of violence and regret. Perhaps this was a chance to balance the scales, to use his power for something beyond survival. "I'll consider it," he said finally, "but we need rest first." "You look ready to collapse." Lysera nodded, too tired to argue. Dorian showed her back to the guest chamber, ensuring she had blankets and a candle. As she settled, he retreated to his study, his mind turning over the names she'd mentioned. One stood out, Lord Gavrick Thorn, a vampire rumored to control the eastern trade routes. If Drace was a pawn, Thorn might be the king. The next day, the manor was quiet. Lysera slept late, giving Dorian time to investigate. He searched his own archives, pulling out dusty ledgers from decades past. There, buried in trade records, was Thorn's name, linked to shipments of rare blood and human captives. The pieces began to fit. When Lysera awoke, she found Dorian at the dining table, papers spread before him. "I've started digging," he said without preamble. "Gavrick Thorn. He's a vampire, older than me, and likely behind Drace's rise. If we're to dismantle this network, he's the next target." Lysera's eyes widened. "A vampire lord? How do we even approach him?" "With caution," Dorian replied. "He holds court in Thornvale's Undercity, a place even I avoid. We'll need allies, or at least distractions. I know a few who owe me favors." Over the next few days, they planned. Dorian contacted old acquaintances, vampires and humans alike, who had grudges against Thorn. Lysera studied the ledgers, piecing together the network's structure. She proved adept, her mind sharp despite her inexperience. One evening, as they reviewed their strategy, Lysera asked, "Why do you help me?" "You could have let me die, kept your secret." Dorian paused, the firelight dancing in his eyes. "Isolde's death taught me the cost of selfishness. You remind me of her, brave, stubborn. Maybe helping you is my way of making amends." She reached out, touching his hand briefly. "Then let's make it count." Their plan took shape. Infiltrate Thorn's court during a blood rite, a ritual where he showcased his power. Dorian would pose as a returning ally, Lysera as his human servant. They'd use the chaos to expose Thorn's dealings to his own followers, turning them against him. The night of the rite arrived. Thornvale's Undercity was a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers, lit by torches that cast eerie shadows. Dorian led Lysera through the damp corridors, his presence masking her human scent. They entered the main hall, where Thorn presided over a gathering of vampires and thralls. Gavrick Thorn was imposing, tall, with silver hair and eyes like ice. He greeted Dorian with a cold smile. "Vex, you've been absent. And this morsel? My new servant," Dorian said smoothly. "A gift, if you'll have her." Thorn's gaze lingered on Lysera, who kept her head bowed. The rite began, a grotesque display of bloodletting. As Thorn drank, Lysera slipped a forged document, evidence of his betrayals, into the hands of a trusted lieutenant. The plan worked, whispers spread, and soon the hall erupted in accusations. Thorn turned, furious, spotting Lysera. "You!" he roared, lunging. Dorian intercepted, their clash a blur of speed and strength. Lysera ducked, grabbing a torch to fend off thralls. The lieutenant rallied others, and Thorn found himself surrounded. In the melee, Dorian drove a stake through Thorn's heart, ending his reign. The hall fell silent, the network's head severed. Lysera and Dorian escaped as the Undercity descended into chaos. Back at Ravenholt, they collapsed by the fire. "It's done," Lysera said, her voice hoarse. "The network will fall apart now." Dorian nodded. "But others will rise." "This fight may never end." She looked at him, a new resolve in her eyes. "Then we keep going. Together?" He met her gaze, a rare smile breaking through. "Together?" As the days turned into weeks at Ravenholt Manor, Dorian and Lysera fell into a rhythm that blurred the lines between alliance and something deeper. The network they had begun to unravel proved more extensive than anticipated, with tendrils reaching into distant cities and hidden covens. Dorian's archives became their war room, maps pinned to walls, lists of names crossed out as they struck. One afternoon, while poring over a stack of intercepted letters, Lysera looked up at Dorian. "We've taken down 3 more, merchants in league with Thorn, but the head of this beast, I think it's Lady Elowin Voss." Dorian stiffened at the name. Elowin was an ancient vampire, known for her beauty and brutality. She's no mere lord. She's a queen, in her own right, ruling from the Shadowspire in the northern mountains. If she's the architect, we're walking into a nest of vipers. Lysera traced a finger along the map. "Then we need a way in." "What if we pose as envoys, offer her a truce, draw her out?" He shook his head. "Elowin doesn't negotiate. She devours. But I know her weakness. She collects rare artifacts, items tied to vampire origins. I have one, a blood crystal from the first turning." Lysera's eyes lit up. "We use it as bait. Lure her to a neutral ground." The plan solidified. Dorian sent a message through underground channels, offering the crystal in exchange for a meeting. Elowin's response came swiftly, an invitation to her spire, under the guise of trade. The journey north was arduous, through snow-dusted forests and rugged passes. Dorian carried Lysera on horseback when the terrain grew too harsh, his immortal strength unwavering. Along the way, they shared stories under starlit skies. Lysera spoke of dreams she'd buried, painting, traveling, things stolen by grief. Dorian confessed his loneliness, the centuries blending into a gray haze until her arrival. As they neared the Shadowspire, a towering fortress of black stone etched with runes, tension mounted. Guards, pale thralls with empty eyes, escorted them inside. The halls were opulent, draped in red velvet, lit by chandeliers of glowing orbs. Elowin awaited in her throne room, a vision in silver gown, her golden hair cascading like sunlight on snow. Her blue eyes pierced Dorian. "Vex, it's been ages, and this human pet, intriguing." Dorian bowed slightly. "Lady Voss, the crystal is yours, for information on your enterprises." Elowin laughed, a sound like shattering glass. "Oh, I know why you're here. Drace, Thorn, they were mine. And now you think to end me?" She snapped her fingers, and guards surged forward. The fight erupted. Dorian moved like wind, fangs bared, snapping necks and tearing limbs. Lysera, armed with a hidden dagger coated in garlic essence, slashed at thralls. Elowin joined the fray, her speed matching Dorian's. They clashed in a whirlwind of strikes, the crystal shattering in the chaos. Lysera saw an opening, Eloin's exposed back, and plunged her dagger. Eloin screamed, the poison weakening her. Dorian finished it, driving a stake through her heart. As she crumbled to dust, the spire's inhabitants fled or turned on each other. Exhausted, they escaped the collapsing alliances, returning to Ravenholt with wounds that healed slowly, even for Dorian. In the quiet aftermath, Lysara tended to him, her hands gentle on his pale skin. "You saved me," he murmured. "We saved each other," she replied. Their bond deepened that night. As the fire crackled, Dorian pulled her close, his lips meeting hers in a kiss born of fire and shadow. For the first time in centuries, he felt alive. But peace was fleeting. Whispers reached them of a new threat, a council of vampires rallying against the disruptions. Led by an elder named Silas Crow, they viewed Dorian as a traitor. "We can't run forever," Lysara said one evening. "We face them." Dorian agreed. They gathered what allies remained, disgruntled vampires weary of the old ways, and prepared for war. The confrontation came at midnight in a ruined abbey, the council assembled under a blood moon. Silas, a gaunt figure with eyes like coals, sneered, "You ally with mortals?" Pathetic. The battle was fierce. Blades clashed, blood spilled. Lysara fought alongside Dorian, her human frailty offset by cunning traps she'd set, mirrors to reflect moonlight, weakening the vampires. In the end, Dorian faced Silas alone. "This ends now," Dorian growled. Silas lunged, but Dorian was faster, ripping out his throat. The council scattered, broken. Victory tasted sweet, but as they stood amid the ruins, Lysara clutched her side, a wound from a stray blade. Blood seeped through her fingers. Dorian's heart, long still, ached. "No," he whispered, carrying her back to Ravenholt. In the manor, he laid her on the bed, her breathing shallow. "I can save you," he said. "Turn you." Lysara shook her head weakly. "Not like Isolde. I want to live as me." Tears, rare for a vampire, fell from his eyes. "I can't lose you." She touched his face. "You won't. We've changed things. That's enough." But as her eyes closed, Dorian couldn't bear it. He bit his wrist, offering his blood. "Drink. Please." She hesitated, then drank. The change began, her wounds healing, eyes turning red. When she awoke, a vampire, she gazed at him with love, not hate. Together, forever. And so, in the shadows of Ravenholt, they ruled a new era, one of balance, not domination. Years passed in the blink of an eye for immortals like Dorian and Lysara. Ravenholt Manor became a sanctuary, not just for them, but for a growing circle of allies, vampires who had grown tired of the old ways of endless hunger and domination. They formed a loose council, meeting under the cover of night to discuss peace with humans, controlled feedings, and alliances that benefited both worlds. Lysara adapted to her new life faster than Dorian expected. Her eyes, now a vivid crimson like his, held the same fire, but tempered with the wisdom of eternity. Yet shadows lingered. Lysara often woke from dreams of her human days, the warmth of the sun on her skin, the taste of real food. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked one night, as they walked the manor's gardens under a full moon. Dorian took her hand. "The sun?" "Yes, but I have you now. That's worth the darkness." She smiled, but her gaze drifted to the horizon. "I don't regret the choice. But sometimes I wonder if I forced your hand." "You didn't," he assured her. "It was my fear of loss, again." Like with Isolde. Mentioning Isolde brought a quiet moment. Lysara had forgiven him long ago, but the past was a chain they both carried. Their peace shattered one autumn evening when a messenger arrived, a young vampire named Kale. Barely a decade turned. He burst into the sitting room, pale even for their kind, his clothes torn from a hard ride. "Lord Vex, Lady Creed," he gasped. "The ancients have awakened. They're calling for a reckoning." Dorian's blood ran cold. The ancients were legends, vampires from the dawn of time, slumbering in hidden crypts. Stories said they enforced the old laws, punishing those who strayed from pure predation. What do they want? Lysara asked, her voice steady. Kyle handed over a sealed scroll. They know of your counsel. They see it as weakness. They've summoned you to the eternal vaults. Refuse, and they'll hunt us all. Dorian broke the seal. The message was clear. Appear before them in 7 nights or face annihilation. We have no choice, Dorian said after Kale left. We go. Lysara nodded, but not alone. We'll bring our allies, show them strength and unity. They rallied their council, 10 vampires strong, each with their own skills. There was Mira, a swift scout, Thorn, a master of illusions, and others who had pledged loyalty. Together, they set out for the eternal vaults, buried deep in the whispering mountains. The journey was fraught with dangers. Wolves howled in the distance, but they were no match for vampires. More troubling were the signs: dead villages, drained of blood. The ancients were feeding, growing strong. As they neared the mountains, Lysara confided in Dorian, if this goes wrong, promise me we'll fight to the end. He kissed her forehead. Always. The vaults were a maze of underground chambers, lit by glowing fungi. Guards, ancient thralls with skin like parchment, led them to the central hall. There, on thrones of bone, sat 3 ancients: Valeria, with hair like midnight, Draven, broad and scarred, and Selene, whose eyes held the void. You dare bring mortals' ideals into our world? Valeria hissed, her voice echoing. Dorian stepped forward. We bring balance. Endless killing leads to our own end. Humans fight back. Hunters, armies, we've seen it. Draven laughed. Weakness. We are predators. You, Vex, were once fierce. Now, tainted by this fledgling. Lysara bristled. I'm no fledgling. I've ended more tyrants than you know. Selene leaned forward. Prove it. Face our trial, survive the blood maze, and we'll consider your words. Fail, and your counsel dies. They had no option. The group entered the maze, a labyrinth of traps, illusions, and beasts. Thorn's illusions helped navigate false paths, but soon they split up in the chaos. Dorian and Lysara pressed on together. Spikes shot from walls. Floors dropped into pits of stakes. They leaped, dodged, their bond keeping them in sync. In a chamber of mirrors, illusions attacked. Copies of themselves, twisted and feral. Dorian fought his double, while Lysara battled hers. It's not real, she shouted, shattering a mirror. But the real threat came in the heart of the maze. A massive beast, a hybrid of wolf and vampire, chained but raging. It broke free, lunging at Lysara. Dorian tackled it, fangs sinking into its neck. Lysara joined, their combined strength overwhelming it. As it fell, the maze walls parted, leading to the ancients. Their allies emerged, battered but alive. You've passed, Selene admitted, but change comes slow. Valeria snarled. We grant you time, but if you fail, we return. The group left the vaults, victorious but wary. Back at Ravenholt, they strengthened their defenses, knowing the ancients watched. Months later, a new challenge arose. Humans from Thornvale, led by a hunter named Harlan Reed, marched on vampire territories. Reed had lost family to rogue feeders and blamed all vampires. Our balance is threatened, Lysara said during a council meeting. We must talk to them. Dorian agreed. They arranged a parley in neutral woods. Reed arrived with armed men, crossbows ready. You killed Drace and Thorn, Reed accused, but you're still monsters. We ended their evil, Lysara countered. We seek peace. No more innocent blood. Reed hesitated. Prove it. Help us against the rogues in the east. They did. Dorian's council hunted the rogues, bringing heads as proof. In return, Reed signed a truce. Vampires feed on willing or criminals, humans leave them be. The alliance grew. Lysara became a bridge, her human past earning trust. Dorian watched her with pride, their love an anchor in the storm. But eternity brings twists. One night, Lysara found an old book in the archives, a ritual to reverse the turning, to become human again. Do you want this? Dorian asked, finding her reading it. She closed the book. Part of me does. But I'd lose you. The sun isn't worth that. He held her. If you choose it, I'll support you. Even if it means goodbye. She shook her head. No, this is my life now, with you. Their bond solidified, they faced new horizons. Whispers of other realms, werewolves, witches, reached them. Alliances formed, enemies rose. In the end, Ravenholt stood as a beacon. Dorian and Lysera, side by side, shaped a world where shadows and light coexisted. Yet, in quiet moments, Lysera wondered about the ritual, and Dorian, ever watchful, prepared for the day she might change her mind. The years stretched on, and Ravenholt Manor evolved into a thriving hub of an unlikely coalition. Dorian and Lysera's vision of coexistence between vampires and humans gained traction, drawing curious allies and wary enemies alike. The truce with Harlan Reed, held, bolstered by joint efforts against rogue vampires and human bandits preying on the vulnerable. Yet, the undercurrents of unrest never fully subsided, and new challenges loomed on the horizon. One winter night, as snow blanketed the grounds, a letter arrived from a distant land, Calthor, a realm across the sea where tales spoke of werewolves and witches. The seal bore the mark of a crescent moon, entwined with a thorn, and the message was brief: the balance is failing. Seek the coven of the black thorn. Urgency is your ally. It was unsigned, but the urgency struck a chord. Dorian read it aloud by the fire, Lysera beside him. Werewolves and witches, she mused. We've heard rumors, but this feels different. It's a call for help, Dorian said. The balance, our peace, might be tied to theirs. If they fall, it could ripple here. Lysera nodded. Then we go. But we need more than our council. We should bring Reed and his hunters. The decision was made. They gathered a delegation, Dorian and Lysera, Mira and Thorn from the council, and a small contingent of Reed's best men, including his sharp-eyed daughter, Elena. The journey across the sea was perilous, the ship battling storms conjured by an unseen force. When they landed on Calthor's rugged shores, a delegation met them, led by a stern werewolf named Gavin and a witch named Morwenna. The coven of the Black Thorn is under siege, Gavin growled, his amber eyes scanning them. A vampire cult, led by one of your kind, seeks to dominate us. They've allied with dark magic. Morwenna, her silver hair streaked with black, added, the balance, our pact of mutual survival, is breaking. If they succeed, your truce will crumble too. Dorian exchanged a glance with Lysera. Who leads this cult? A vampire named Zephyr Kane, Morwenna said. Ancient, ruthless. He believes vampires should rule all. The name stirred a faint memory in Dorian. Zephyr, a rival from centuries past, banished for his cruelty. I know him, Dorian said. He was cast out for trying to enslave human villages. If he's back, he's stronger. They devised a plan. The Coven's stronghold, a fortress called Nightvale Keep, was heavily guarded. Gavin's pack would create a diversion, attacking the outer defenses, while Morwenna's witches cast protective wards. Dorian, Lysera, and the humans would infiltrate, seeking Zephyr. The assault began under a blood-red moon. Gavin's wolves howled, clashing with cult guards as Morwenna's spells lit the sky with green fire. Dorian and Lysera led the infiltration, moving silently through shadowed halls. Elena and her hunters followed, crossbows loaded with silver-tipped bolts. Inside, they faced thralls and traps, spikes, poisoned darts. Lysera's human cunning shone, spotting pressure plates Dorian missed. They reached the keep's heart, where Zephyr awaited on a dais, surrounded by robed figures chanting. Vex, Zephyr sneered, his voice a rasp. You've fallen far, consorting with dogs and mortals. And you've risen to madness, Dorian shot back. This ends tonight. The battle was brutal. Zephyr's speed matched Dorian's, their clash a blur of fangs and fists. Lysera fought off cultists, her dagger flashing, while Elena's bolts felled others. Morwenna's magic breached the chamber, weakening Zephyr's defenses. In a desperate move, Zephyr seized Lysara, holding a blade to her throat. Surrender, or she dies. Dorian froze, but Lysara elbowed Zephyr, breaking free. Dorian lunged, driving a stake through Zephyr's chest. The cult collapsed, their leader's death shattering their will. Outside, Gavin's pact triumphed, and Morwenna sealed the keep's dark magic. The balance restored, the leaders signed a new pact. Vampires, werewolves, witches, and humans united against future threats. Returning to Ravenholt, Dorian and Lysara were hailed as architects of this alliance. Yet, the ritual book lingered in Lysara's thoughts. One night she brought it to Dorian. "I've decided," she said. "I want to try the reversal. Not to leave you, but to see the sun again. Just once." Dorian's heart ached, but he nodded. "If it's what you want, we'll find a way." "But it's dangerous, untested." Morwenna, summoned for aid, studied the ritual. "It requires a blood bond sacrifice. Someone must give their essence to anchor the change. It could kill the giver." Lysara paled. "I won't risk you." "I'll do it," Dorian said firmly. "You've given me purpose." "This is my choice." The ritual took place in Ravenholt's garden, under the willow where Isolde lay. Morwenna chanted, drawing a circle of runes. Dorian bit his wrist, offering his blood to Lysara as she drank. Pain seared through him, his strength fading, but he held on. Lysara's body convulsed, her red eyes dimming to green. The sun rose, its light touching her face. She gasped, tears falling as warmth returned. Dorian slumped, weakened but alive. "It worked," she whispered, cradling him. "You're still here?" "Barely," he rasped, smiling. "But seeing you like this, worth it?" She chose to remain human, her vampire years a memory. They adapted, Dorian resting by day, Lysara leading by light. Their love endured, a bridge between worlds. Decades later, as Dorian's strength waned from the ritual's toll, Lysara cared for him. One evening, under the same willow, he took her hand. "My time nears," he said. "I've lived enough. You've made it good." Tears fell as he closed his eyes, his body turning to ash in the sun. Lysara mourned, but planted a rose where he lay, vowing to honor their legacy. She led Ravenholt alone, her human life a testament to their dream. The alliance grew, spanning continents, a world where shadows and light danced together. And in the garden, the rose bloomed eternal, a symbol of love that defied time.